Hey, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Muse Jester. My name is Junior. Today we're gonna do a handhold discussion about collecting. I apologize if my hands are gonna be shaking and everything, but I think that will be the best way to do it. So I've been a collector for over 30 years, and I'm the type of collector who collected things presently. I've always pre-ordered stuff. I've never bought stuff that's been released a decade ago or something like that. I've always bought my items when they were just coming out, and I've always pre-ordered them. Very, very few times that I've actually gone back and tried to get stuff. This is actually one of them, the Exo Squad, um, where I've gotten older collections, right? But when I do, I'm very, very cheap, and I go on eBay, and I have a set limit of what I'm willing to spend on older stuff. Okay, so if you've seen my collections and my reviews, I've probably talked that I'm only interested in 1/12 scale and 1/6 scale. That's the main concentration of my collection. Um, and I tried to get into the 1/18 scale. I tried to get into the 3.75 scale with the GI Joe 25th anniversary, but I was years behind already. Maybe like 10 years or so. And the prices were kind of getting high. And I think by the time I got in, they were stopping the Walmart retro card collection. So, and they stopped it. And, once they stopped it, I was like, there goes what my collection should have been. And I switched to and that's when they started doing the 6-inch classifieds. So, I have had some Star Wars figures before, the 3.75, but they're from the Power of the Force collection. I got them when they were coming out. I pre-ordered them, like I said. But I've never liked them because I thought the sculpting was pretty awful and the articulation was pretty awful compared to their competitors. So I stopped. Um, so let's talk about this topic is actually, what do you do when you're starting a collection and the collection is over 3 decades of inventory, right? 1978, 1979 is when we started seeing these Star Wars toys come out, right? So why am I talking about Star Wars 3.75? Well, this whole thing started with the third sister. I was at Ross. It was $3.99. I picked her up. And I was severely impressed by that face printing and the articulation range of this figure. Severely impressed. To the point that it started to linger in my mind. And then, just by happenstance, Amazon was holding a sale on Boba Fett's Slave One or Starfighter, and the ATS. No, not the Mandalorian's N1 Starfighter. These were originally 130, 120 price range, and I got this one for $90, and I got this one for $90. Okay, and they came like maybe 3 or 4 days later, and I kind of liked them because I got them for what, 40% off, 30% off, and they were good for what they were. There were a few things that I discovered when I started thinking about the Slave 1 and the N1. I also ordered this guy, the ATST with Chewbacca, but the original price I believe is $82 and I paid $78, so it's not much of a discount. But what I did learn about reviewing the Slave 1 was that this was not produced in 2024. This mold was not produced in 2023, 2022, 2020. This mold was actually first released around 2009, 2008 or something like that from the Legacy collection. And I'm like, wait, what? Yes, I found that out because there was an issue with those two wings, and I was looking at reviews on it before I returned it. And I learned from those reviews that that particular problem has been consistently throughout the line ever since it got released in 2010, 2009. And they've repainted it, they've re-released it, and they've never fixed it. Lo and behold, 15 years later, it's still there. And that kind of sucks. But I did find a fix for it. But what I learned was, what? I could have bought the 2009 version of this one? Well, how much could they possibly be? That lingered in my mind, right? Then I reviewed the N1 Starfighter, and I was kind of disappointed with it. And then I reviewed the ATST. From the ATST, knowing that they've re-released this version, I then went ahead and researched the ATST, which I got for $78, and learned that this particular model was also released around 2010. So apparently, Kenner or Hasbro, I'm not sure which one at that point, as they were upgrading these older models, the last upgrade to the design occurred in 2009, the Legacy Collection, or around that time, for most of their models. So this is basically the same as those two in the back. Nothing has changed except for paint application. Nothing. They say they fixed up and tightened up the joints. They did not. Same old crappy joints, same old design, same old mold, right? And then I reviewed the N1 Starfighter from The Mandalorian. Now this is a brand new design, brand new ship, obviously, because this was just from the show that we all just watched. And they retailed this for $129. So this is the top of the line market wide release of a vehicle that they've ever done. All right. And from the review, I learned one or two things. The design is beautiful. Play feature is great and everything. But the paint application sucks. It really does. They've done exactly what Marvel Legends does, where they applied 90% of their paint budget to the face and 5% to the rest of the figure, or maybe 1% to the rest of the figure, because everything else is bare plastic, right? And if you look, I'm not sure if you can see, this is marbleized bare plastic. This is the only paint job. A little bits pieces here. This one, maybe here. I don't know. Nope. Bare plastic. That's all you're seeing. Such a crappy job at doing your paint. Why is that important? That's important because now if we go back to the ATST, where you have the same exact molding as the new one with better application for paint, but not really, because that's all they're gonna do ever. Why don't I just buy the older model and customize it myself and do my own paint application? That way I'll save money and I'll have fun customizing it and making the toy my own. So an idea sprang into my mind. If I was serious in collecting the 3.75 line, this was October 10, guys, that I purchased this on Amazon. So they arrived probably like October 13, October 14. That's the only ship that I had. That's the only ATST that I had. And this is the only ship that I had. October 10. Okay? October 10. All this stuff you're seeing all this stuff you're seeing on the floor did not exist in my collection. But when I researched the ATST, an intriguing idea came into my mind that if I was serious in collecting the vintage line of Star Wars, I could save money by purchasing the older model instead of the newly released one. Huh. Now, how much savings could I possibly get if I were to do that? Okay? If I'm interested in actually continuing with this line, so the first advice I would say to you guys when you're doing so, and the line is old, decades old, you can't, unless you're really, really rich and you're willing to spend a whole lot of freaking money, you need to minimize the damage when it comes to your wallet. How do you do that? Know what you want. What do you want from the vintage collection? And what are your categories? That's what I asked myself. Junior, what do you want? What do you want? Why did you even want to go into the collection of vintage? It's because of this character. No, not because of this character. I'm sorry. It's because of this toy. What does this toy offer? Face printing, good sculpts, great articulation. $4.99 value. $4.99 price. Those three categories were the foundation of what I wanted in the figures. Okay? So first let's tackle face printing. You need to do, now that I know what I want, you need to do research. You need to do your research when you're getting into a collection. You can't just jump in, guys. Unless you're rich, you don't care. Yeah. So I had to do my research. So luckily, as I'm reviewing the Slave One and the ATST and the Mandalorian, I came across a YouTube channel called Bosk's Bounty. And from him, I was able to jump into a checklist that he had made in his website, bosksbounty.com, of the checklist of figures released since 2010. So not the whole line history, just 2010 to present. Okay? So from 2010 of the checklist, fortunately, as he listed all the figures from each year, he also listed photographs of those figures. And from there, I was able to determine that in the year 2018, they started introducing face printing technology, only for a few figures. And each figures that he listed since 2018 had photographs. So from there, I had a master list that I can look at and see if the face printing is there or not. 2018. So now I don't have to go back to 1978. Obviously, I didn't like it anyway, even until 1990, right? So my starting point for the figures is 2019. Now, what's the next category? Oh, yeah. The next category is, because we're talking about the original trilogy 4, 5, and 6. We're talking about the prequels 1, 2, and 3, and the sequels 7, 8, 9. I already knew this was going to be an expensive venture. So I wanted to concentrate my collection first in the original trilogy, the 4, 5, and 6. So for characters, I decided, okay, I'm going to get the core characters, because in the original trilogy, there's not really a lot of core characters. There's a lot of background characters, which I don't even know about, so I don't really care. But definitely I would want Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca, 3PO, R2-D2, maybe Boba Fett, definitely Darth Vader, Emperor, some stormtroopers, the kind of stuff that basically the figures that I have in the 1/12 scale, because I do collect 1/12 scale Star Wars. And I am jumping into this one, right? So I'm going to mirror the characters that I have there into this line, and that limits the characters now from 300 strong to maybe 30 or 40. And I know of a Chinese knockoff company that's selling these stormtroopers for like $3.99, but they're the older version, not too articulated, but I don't really care because they're stormtroopers. For troop building, you just basically have them standing at a parade, right? So okay, that's basically what I wanted. So now I know that I want the original trilogy and I want face printing. And obviously the articulation comes with the face printing, so we know the articulation is up to date. And now we come to pricing. So from pricing, this is going to be tricky because from pricing I jumped from the figure interest to the vehicles, because honestly, as interesting as the figures are in Star Wars, the fact that you have vehicles is the one that's really gonna make your collection for Star Wars alive. That's the only reason why you would go to 3.75 is because of the vehicles that you can have in a smaller space, right? So now that I'm looking at pricing, I went ahead and looked at the ATST, and I, after some research, from Bosk's Bounty, I was able to jump off to another website called rebelscum.com, and they had the master list, the master list of all the figures, what collection they're from, pictures of each figure, each vehicle, and then more importantly, the retail price when they were at the time they were released. So why is it important to get the retail price of the year they were released? Well, mostly I'm cheap. I don't want to overpay for what I want. In fact, it's mostly because I have a limited set of funds. I don't know. At that time, I don't know exactly what that limit was. All I know was that I wanted to get as cheap a price as possible. And this is why it's really, really important to do your research. Now that you know what you wanted, and you found out there's a cheaper version out there, and as you do more research, you find out when they were released, which means, let's say for this one 2009, that means 2009 onwards, any release from there is what I'm interested in, right? Anything before 2009, don't get it, because it's not going to be the model that I want. It's not going to be up to date. Also, because the retail price is included, I can see how much I should pay depending on the original price. How much has the price blossomed or exploded since the original release? That's very, very important in determining whether you're willing to pay that expanded cost or not. So let's stop the video at this point, right? If you're going into a new collection and that collection has 30 years worth of history, and we're talking about maybe over tens of thousands of dollars, because and it could, you need to know what you want. You need to do research on what you want so you can redefine what you want. You need to do research so you can find a base price point, so you can feel comfortable on what you're willing to pay, or find out what you're willing to pay for that item. Okay? And most importantly, if you've got all those resources, don't put it in your head. Make a list. Make a proper list. Put down the year, put down the models that you're kind of interested in, put down the retail and all that stuff. Okay? Once you have that as a base, now we can go forward and look at your choices when it comes to purchasing, and thereby increasing the purchasing power of your money. I'm going to end the video right there. I hope you guys stay tuned, and I hope you guys will stay tuned for the rest of the videos as I talk about how my collection expanded just from the Slave 1, an ATST, and an N1 Starfighter to all this stuff you're seeing right now, with more to come on the next video. Goodbye.